anything? Or I know sometimes you like to start things.
What to talk about, Jay? What to talk about?
Well, last week we didn't really. If there's ever been a reason why we should have skipped weekly last week, I think it's this week. Because it's it's such a different week in compare. Not that a lot of stuff didn't happen last week, but this week there's more shit that we care to talk about.
I think looking at the topics that we have, we can already tell that you can only do like 10 minutes on each, maybe, because they're just such small, brief topics.
You're talking about these specific ones?
Yeah, including the ones that I picked.
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No.
Can we really spend 20 to 30 minutes on the Black Panther trailer?
I'd love to, because here's the issue. I mean, look, we have the show set up to talk about one big topic from movies, music, and television. But I think the thing I've realized lately is, it's important to talk about big topics. Of course it is. There's some things that, regardless of what we think about them, we should talk about them. But sometimes I just don't give a shit about some of the things that we talk about. Like, I'm not passionate about talking about some of those things. This week, I'm actually really, really excited to talk about the 3 topics that we're talking about.
I'm excited for you. Wait, did that come across that I wasn't excited? I meant to say I'm happy that you're excited. Yeah. I'm excited too, Jay. I'm excited every time we podcast. I get to express myself, express my opinions, and people know this. I like to talk, Jay. That's why I wasn't at all hesitant about doing an after party last week. So it kind of blew my mind listening to your music episode this week. When I heard you say that you were a little self-conscious, you were a little worried about skipping weekly for the first time in 7 months. And I don't remember you expressing that at the time. I think we just kind of decided right then and there to do the after party, and we did it. And I thought we felt good about it. So I was surprised to hear you say that.
Well, it wasn't that I didn't like after party. It's just, I mean, if you would have told me, would there be any reason to skip Sight and Sound Weekly in an entire year, I would say there's probably no excuse, really. But there was, so it's fine. I mean, like, for instance, I'm going on vacation around Christmas time, and Christmas time for podcasts, at least every podcast that I've been involved in, has been a tough time. Like, usually numbers sort of drop off because people are doing shit around the holidays. And like, when I'm on that trip, we might have to record something before the fact, you know what I'm saying? Or you might have to find somebody to fill in, or whatever the case may be. But
what did we do last year? Like, favorite Christmas albums and TV shows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had something to sort of fill that time. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure we probably could have done that. The thing about it is we're fucking busy, man. I mean, that is what it is.
It's no excuse, Jay.
It's not. I mean, it's really
a hustle. It's a grind.
It's really not an excuse. And I mean, I've said it before too, that I'm my own worst enemy. And sometimes, like, I was on that staycation last week, legitimately got anxiety sitting by the pool trying to relax because I felt like I wasn't getting anything done. And that's not a good thing. It's not.
It depends. There's no reason why. Like, I hate that you felt anxious trying to relax. Like, you deserve those moments, especially when you specifically take a vacation, Jay. You're not, when you decide for yourself to take a vacation, you shouldn't feel stressed out if you're not doing something. I mean, maybe if it's the work week and you have goals that you're trying to accomplish. I know what you do, and I know you do generally. I know you very well. But yeah, when you set that time aside for yourself specifically, I hate that you felt anxious about it even then. Like, you shouldn't have. I know that's easy to say, but you shouldn't have.
Yeah, no, I know 100%. I mean, look, I've had legitimate friendships and relationships fail because, not specifically because of my creative endeavors, but it hasn't helped the situation for sure. It just so happens that right now the balance of things in my life is a lot better. It's a lot more steady. I've figured it out. I've been doing it for a while now.
You know what's weird about that? And I think
welcome to After Party.
We share the same mentality. We share the same mentality. We are incredibly driven. We're focused on all of our goals, whether it be the podcast or the YouTube channel, whatever, what have you. we talked a lot about how we have to sacrifice a lot of our extracurriculars, a lot of our friendships, even so. I'm in this, I don't want to call it an awkward situation, but, and I'm not complaining. This isn't a complaint either. This is just an observation. I've actually been able to sort of rekindle and revisit some old friendships.
With Goodman?
Mainly with Goodman, yeah. We had some quality time together the other night, and I haven't hung out with him in forever.
Why did he want me to come hang out? I don't want to watch basketball with Goodman.
It was mainly a joke.
Oh, okay.
He did ask where you were, though. Oh, he told me, by the way, that he listened to every single episode of our Leftovers recap show.
Of course he did.
Except your solo episode.
Of course.
Because he likes my takes better than yours.
That's perfectly fine. I was the negative one on that podcast, so I completely get it. Did he buy a t-shirt yet?
No, but I
don't like Goodman.
He did ask to see it, and I showed it to him, and I think he's gonna get it in black. I'm gonna pressure him into getting a Sight and Sound t-shirt.
So just while we're on t-shirts,
I don't like Goodman.
You can that's shtick, guys. That's shtick. Or is it? Anyways, you guys can buy some t-shirts. sightsoundpod.com. Make sure to do that. Support the show. Help make it better. Look good doing it. I have not been super happy though with my TeePublic shirt quality. My shirts.
Oh, your own?
My shirts have shrank significantly. And I know we've talked about drying them.
Hey.
I know we've talked about that. Haven't been a huge fan. Might be looking for another outlet.
No.
Yeah, I am. In fact,
that's on you.
I've got one lined up.
It's on you.
How do you feel about Amazon Tees? You ever heard of it?
I don't know what that is.
That's right. It's a thing. Front and back printing coming soon.
I think that this is entirely on you.
You're going to be excited
because you're
going to be excited about Amazon Tees because especially. Well, I want to tell you something.
I'm more so contesting how you got to this decision more so than the decision itself. I mean, if it's obviously better for us to change t-shirt companies, it doesn't matter. That just means I have to go to another website. That's not a big deal at all. But yet you need to chill out on the dryer. That's exactly what it is. This shirt I'm wearing right now, it's not from TeePublic. It's just a gray V-neck. This was not put in the dryer. Christian Harloff changed my life when he gave me that advice. And
can I educate you and Christian?
All of my no, you can't. Christian's smarter than you in every way.
Well, he also has never owned a t-shirt company or a screen printing company before.
That's true. But anyway, all I'm saying is I've purchased every single Sight and Sound t-shirt that we have. If you're listening and you have a Sight and Sound t-shirt or you're thinking about it, make sure that you wash it inside out. That way the design isn't out, can't get damaged. And then wash it on cold to prevent the shrinking, and then let it air dry.
Okay, so here is so I used to own a t-shirt company, and I used to own a screen printing company for about 2 years. Here's the issue about t-shirts. The more rules you have to follow to take care of your actual t-shirt, the less quality the t-shirt actually is. I own many t-shirts. In fact, there are t-shirts that I fold, and there are t-shirts that I hang. The good quality ones I hang. The bad quality ones I fold. Heather Gray, we've talked about it before. Best quality t-shirts, period, no matter what type of t-shirt that exists.
I have had my share of t-shirt issues. Like I said, before I found out about the dryer, I mean, I would buy Nike shirts that are, more high quality. I would buy Fruit of the Loom undershirts, and they were always all over the place when you dried them or washed them and dried them. I mean, they'd come out, be different sizes. Some t-shirts that I would wear, they'd become wider than they were long.
Yep.
And I like a nice fitted look with my tees. I like them to look like I'm more long ways, and some t-shirts don't do that. They
box up.
They shorten. They box up. Yeah, some of them would lose color faster than others, and for years, t-shirts just absolutely frustrated me. And I think that's why I liked band tees so much. Is because band tees didn't really seem to do that.
Yep,
but
there's a reason for that too.
But I never understood why.
So. The thinner material as well, the worse the shirt's going to be in terms of deforming over time, the heavier the material. And a lot of bands like I think one of the last band he's actually bought was an Every Time I Die t-shirt, really heavy material. And some people like thinner shirts, and that's fine. I get it. I like a heavier, stiffer sort of shirt, and they do hold their shape much better.
One of the best t-shirts.
What is this?
One of the best t-shirts that I own is that a Day to Remember shirt that I wear a lot, that dark green design, the green and yellow lettering that I wear a lot. That's one of the best shirts I own, period.
Yeah?
Yes,
easily. Is it a heavier shirt?
It's actually not. It's not, but
it's not.
I was just fitting it under the general idea that the band shirts have always been really good to me over the years. And that shirt is it's like 2.5 years old, and it hasn't given out. But yeah, I don't know what this is either. Conversation about t-shirts.
Let's talk about our weekend. What'd you do this weekend? You're sort of on I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know how much you want to talk about it.
No, I could talk about it. I'm on I decided to take a leave from work. We've kind of danced around it on the show before that
I don't dance. I'm from the town in Footloose.
I've been in and out of some health issues.
I just referenced New Girl. You're not proud of me at all?
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to make me pull out my Schmidt impression?
If you want to. We're not on camera.
Fine, I'll do it for CC. What was I talking about? Oh, anyway, I've been in and out of some health issues, and my anxiety has been really heightened as of late, and I've been battling it for like 5 or 6 months with my job, and I just decided that I just needed the time away. I could never get regulated fighting it while I was still fighting a disorganized, irregular schedule at work. So I'm on leave right now, so that it's given me a lot of downtime, and I'm able to appreciate just being able to lay down and relax, which has been really important to me. But at the same time, I've been still hustling. We don't have to talk about this right now, but you and I are working on some other things outside of Sight and Sound for ourselves, and so I've been doing some of that stuff. Looking into selling some stuff online. So that's really what I've been doing. A mixed bag of brainstorming and preparing for that other stuff while getting to hang out, watch some movies. I watched Batman 89 last night.
I saw that.
I watched part of Superman the movie this morning before I came over here, preparing for that Inner Geekdom title. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've done, man. I've really appreciated it. That and dealing with my house because my floor is flooded and we're still in the middle of those repairs. I have no carpet in my room right now, so it's hilarious. I'm just walking around on the subfloor. I have to wear sandals in my house at all times
in case a nail goes through your foot.
Well, not just that, but like the carpet tacks are exposed, so I have to be careful with that. But a lot of dust and just there's pieces of carpet padding everywhere from when they ripped it up. So I've been fighting that and trying to relax as much as possible. But anyway, that's all I've done really.
Yeah, yesterday was kind of interesting, kind of funny. I knew that you were on this grind, on this business thing. Your business level was turned up to 11 because you were absolutely wearing me the fuck out yesterday.
I'm working on my entrepreneurial spirit.
Hey, look at me. It's not your fault. You drive me fucking crazy yesterday. I had to turn your notifications off on my phone because you were wearing me out.
You're just irritable.
No, I was very.
You are irritable.
Here, be quiet. So here's the thing. I had.
Look at that right there. You just told me to shush and be quiet on our own show.
Because, I know.
That
I'm trying to
exactly
explain
what I said.
I'm trying to explain it. So I had a shit ton of stuff to do. My dog is making crazy noises. I had a shit ton of stuff to do on Friday. I had a shit ton of stuff to do yesterday. I had a shit ton of stuff to do today. A whole list of things that I needed to do. And I was getting them done. I was being very, very productive, and that was great. And when I would like take a break from doing what I was doing, and I would look at my phone, and it would be like these and I love these conversations. Love them. Love the conversations you were trying to start. When I looked at my phone to sort of relax for a second, and I saw that it was like, hey, let's do this. And I was just like, okay. And then it was like that all day. Again, like I said, not your fault. It just I had to like turn it off. I had to know when to just chill the hell out. And what's funny about that too, I sort of was trying to put myself in your shoes. Just talked before about, you know, anxiety, feeling stressed out and stuff like that. Do you ever wonder if you're doing yourself any favors by constantly being on that grind and having those sort of issues with anxiety and stress that you have?
Well, it all goes back to how I got into podcasting to begin with. I was on a leave much like this, and all I had to do was focus on a podcast.
Right.
And Film Beef was created, and it brought me all the way up until this point. So based on that 3-week leave in 2014, I'm sitting here today. And I truly believe that. So that grind has lasted, 2.5 years, almost 3 years since I was on that first In the Galaxy episode as a guest, when I really caught the bug, you know? So I get in these moods, and I think I talked about it in one of our videos, or at least I recorded it. I don't know if I published it yet, but I have this, I'm one of those people that gets really excited when I'm starting to get really into something. So like, I made the joke that there was a time when I watched and binged Scrubs, and for those few weeks, that was the most I've ever wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Or like when people are all about food when they watch Food Network, or they think about wanting to be a chef. Like I'm guilty of becoming that type of sponge in a way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it's just kind of been heightened because it's so, the things that I wanted to talk about over the weekend, and I'll get to that in a second, but everything that I'm working on, like the business stuff, the entrepreneurial stuff, all that research and studying that I'm doing, all of that can be applied directly to podcasting. And it's able to, I'm bridging gaps, and I'm starting to gain a much bigger sense of drive, really, right, for what we're doing. So, I mean, everything that I'm learning, I can apply to here. And I'm just excited. That's all Absolutely. It is. I'm just excitable about all the things that I'm looking into. And yeah.
Well, the funny thing about it, just in general, and again, there's nothing. You talked about me being irritable, and you're 100% right. I was definitely irritable, still am to a certain extent. And I mean, look, just completely being honest and #transparency about it. It's you know, sometimes you're not always at the exact same level as other people. Without doing it, and maybe that's on me. Maybe I should have said, dude, look, I'm not into talking about this right now. I don't want to fucking talk about this. You're driving me up a wall. We spend a lot of time together. We do a ton of stuff together. And yeah, every now and then it's our time apart. Sometimes it does need to be that way.
I think I love you. I think part of the confusion was I'm not used to you being busy on the weekends.
Right.
Like I'm
always busy on the weekends. I'm not used to you. I'm used to you being at work all the time and leaving me the fuck alone. That's what it is.
That's not true. We text all the time when I'm at work.
Yeah, but you're not always super available. So
I think when you're busy on the weekends, I'm usually somewhat a part of it. So we get to still have those types of conversations. We're still talking to each other, but
I don't know what that means. I am always busy on the weekends.
Yeah, but we also spend a lot of time with each other on the weekends.
I'm either cleaning my house or working on graphics or editing podcasts or working on music.
That's not...
Unplugging my Xbox.
You know that there's a difference in what you were doing the past 2 days versus how we usually conduct things, whether it's me coming over on Sunday nights or coming over Saturdays to record weekly. There's a difference.
I can tell you 100% nothing about this weekend was any different than my other weekends. The only difference was
I wasn't a part of it.
No, the biggest difference was that you were off and I had shit to do while you were off. That's the thing about it. I didn't incorporate you, and you were jealous.
I wasn't jealous.
He was jealous.
I didn't. Well, what am I?
You wanted to see Dolly and Indy.
Yeah.
My downtime was exactly what I did last night, which was typically after 10 o'clock on a Friday and a Saturday, and sometimes Sundays. Last night decided to go out with my lady Kayla and have a nice dinner. Yes, we went and ate dinner at 9:30 at night. 9:30 at night. What'd you say?
That usually doesn't happen on the weekend.
What's that?
You going out on dates with Kayla? It's usually
100% not true.
It's usually a Monday, Tuesday thing.
It's 100% not true. Monday and Tuesday after I get off work are my weekends for podcasting. My time
weekends
off,
from podcasting.
My time off from my time off in general, like my 5 o'clock leaving work is when she gets off work, which is 10 o'clock on a Friday night, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, 6 o'clock on a Sunday night. Always. Always.
It's debatable.
You don't know anything about my schedule.
It's debatable.
You don't know anything about it because you
want to go down this road? You want to go over how many times you have to ask me when I have days off work when
because
I tell you
it's constantly changing.
Yeah, but I constantly
mine stays the exact same. You fucking asshole! It's the exact same. You know nothing, Ryan Snelling.
I know everything.
You trust me, you don't. So, anyways, last night we had a delicious dinner and there was some fucking barbecue festival going on downtown and a band on a gigantic stage. It was amazing. We sat outside. It was lovely, but it was the most California thing I think could have ever happened. And
hell yes.
At one moment or another, I thought to myself, Ryan would enjoy this quite a bit.
Because it was California?
And I thought about it, and I was like, should I have invited him? And then I thought about how much you were driving me crazy, and I was like, no. So anyways.
Plus I would have had to dress up.
There's no dressing up. I wore a flannel and the same thing I wear all the time.
You all look nice.
Flannel and jeans and my NMDs. Anyways, had a great dinner. Immediately felt like shit after I got done eating. I don't have digestion problems at all. I had terrible indigestion, and it was because I just ate too much too fast. Yesterday, all I had to eat before this meal was one breadstick. That's it. And I shoved all of this delicious Mexican food into my face. I believe it took a turn for the worst when we ordered churros at the end of the meal as a dessert. Saw a Michael Jackson impersonator just dancing across the street.
Like on purpose, or did he just look like
came out of nowhere? Legitimately came out of nowhere, dressed as Michael Jackson in a sequin jacket and a white glove and a hat. Very strange.
That does sound California.
Left the dinner, walking back through this downtown area of Lexington, and I got to a crosswalk to walk across the street, and this guy looked back at us, and I looked at him, and he looked back again to do a double take because I think in his mind, he saw in my eyes that I knew who he was.
Mm.
Stood at a crosswalk with Sturgill Simpson. If you don't know who Sturgill Simpson is, he was nominated for Album of the Year against Adele, Justin Bieber, Drake. The who's who of.
He's from your hometown.
He's from my hometown. He's from Kentucky in general. An incredible country music singer. Just big fan of, or big friend of Joe Rogan. For a second, I thought this could be the closest I'd ever be to Joe Rogan, but that's actually not true because I hung out with his former producer for like an entire night one time at a comedy show. And Ellis, but yeah, the producer was, and Sturgill Simpson was probably closer than Ellis. Anyways, very, very strange. I thought about doing the whole, can I get a picture or just talking to him in general? It wasn't the moment for that. It just wasn't. I whispered in my girlfriend's ear if she knew who it was. I said it was Sturgill Simpson. She didn't believe me. She looked up a picture and noticed that they had the same tattoos. And it was just very strange because so
there was like an extended period where you were hanging out with him. It wasn't just glancing and he was gone.
No. We were he was probably walking in front of us for probably 2 blocks, and we both had to cross the street at the same time, and we waited at this crosswalk together for about
Anybody
2
else
minutes.
Around? Anybody registering who he was? Or was it just a you and him
There
thing?
was a massive barbecue festival downtown.
So, okay.
There was a huge group of people, but at this certain point, the crowd was like dispersing off in different areas. It was late. People were drinking and stuff. I don't know. It was just very, very odd. Not just to see somebody famous in Lexington, but someone that relevant. I mean, he just announced he's going on tour with Guns N' Roses. And their first date is at Mile High Stadium. he's more relevant than Guns N' Roses. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts. It's just weird to me.
Yeah.
He also is like, did you ever see that Waffle House thing he did with, what's his name? The guy that took over for David Letterman. Why am I forgetting his name?
Stephen Colbert?
Yeah, did you see that bit he did with him?
No.
It was pretty good. Anyways, this is going on forever.
No, it's fine. Is that thing going on again tonight?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Can we go back and see if we can find him again?
Well, I'm not. It's my grandmother's birthday.
Let's take a. Oh, your grandmother will be asleep by then. Let's take some mics down there. Catch them off guard.
It was cool, man. It was really, really cool. I'm excited about my future in Lexington too, just because this area that we were at, can't really say too much about it, but I'll be spending a lot more time down in that area, and it's a very lively spot, and I enjoy it.
2 weeks in a row, we had interesting celebrity sighting stories.
Yeah, we did. What was last week?
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh yeah.
But I was a child. It didn't happen recently. I could tell my Steve Zahn story. No. But we're talking about music. Do you want a break right now before we get to the topic?
Yeah, let's take a break. Can I ask you one quick question before we get into this?
No.
We do have a lot more time. We don't have a lot more time on our hands. I don't know why I said that, but we
just hit the shit out of my elbow.
Now the dogs are going crazy.
God.
We are in this entrepreneurial spirit and whatnot. I think we should bring back
Twitter polls,
Sight and Sound bites. So the long quiet break. There's no reason not to, especially if we split up the duty in doing it now because I have better internet. And yeah, I think we should do it. We'll talk about it off air. How about that? Let's go to break. We love cramming your ear holes with Sight and Sound goodness, but now we want to be all over your body. Wait, before you file a police report, we want you to wear our t-shirts. Head on over to sightsoundpod.com and pick up your Sight and Sound gear today. Every month we are releasing exclusive and limited designs, so if you see something you really want, make sure to pick it up before it goes away forever. Oh yeah, and the best part? Every time you buy a Sight and Sound shirt, you can go to bed at night feeling like a better person because you are doing your part to not only support this show, but make it better in the future. We have a ton of ideas to make Sight and Sound better for you, like doing a video version of Sight and Sound Weekly. Every time you buy a t-shirt, you are supporting us and helping make that dream a reality. Again, head on over to sightsoundpod.com and pick up your Sight and Sound gear today.
That's our metronome. Whenever you're ready.
I could just turn the metronome on. That would be strange.
Oh, really? Oh, I guess I'm leading.
Well, yeah,
we just decided
movie discussion.
We just decided what we were going to talk
What the hell's
about.
the matter with you?
Jay Williams. This might be my topic, but I actually want your take because I've already done this. I was one of the first people on YouTube to put up a trailer reaction to this, and it was because I had completely forgotten that the thing was coming out, and I happened upon it. So
I was notified the same way that I'm notified of most things that I forget about, and that's via Luke Jaggers. Because honestly, I'll be completely real right now. Between you, me, and Luke, I think he probably has his finger on the pulse of things faster than we do. 100%.
Yeah.
Guys, go follow Luke Jaggers on Twitter. I don't know what his
my impression
is.
of that is he's just constantly on a computer.
Well,
that's got to be what it is.
He also is probably more. He is constantly on a computer,
or on a phone.
But he and he also is more in tune with two of the three things that we talk about here, like a lot, and we have common interests.
I feel like he doesn't watch TV.
That's my point. Yeah, that's why I said two of the three things. But
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
Yeah, we are, for sure. Speaking of the same page, I didn't watch your full reaction on YouTube, but I watched enough of it to realize that we pretty much have the same opinion of this thing. Did you talk at all about that Run the Jewels song in the trailer?
I don't want to get there yet.
Okay.
No, I did not.
That's good.
And that's all I got.
Because we can talk about it.
But what I do want to talk about first is the poster that came out the same day.
Trash poster.
It sucks.
It's awful.
Marvel is 2 for 2 and just really lame posters.
Why? Chadwick Boseman's face is clearly photoshopped onto it, and it's completely in an unnatural position. The lighting is poor. It is an awful poster.
I just don't get it.
Can we just do some episode where like we just review posters about how shitty the posters are?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna launch this show. It could be on YouTube.
We gotta launch Trick by Trailers.
I know, but this is another show. This is another series. We're gonna do it. We need some new and different type of YouTube content. That's the next one I'm doing, like a graphic design style movie poster breakdown thing.
Okay,
I'll have you on it too.
Good. Poster's not good.
It's really bad.
Marvel should be ashamed of themselves.
I like the logo.
Yeah, it looks nice. So, but overall, the overall sense was, oh shit, Black Panther trailer?
Yeah.
Dope. Like, it got me.
I thought that poster was fake, by the way, when it was first posted.
I was excited.
Yeah.
Even though the poster sucked, I was excited about what it meant. The fact that we can start sort of getting in the mood, getting in the spirit of Black Panther, even though it's still so far away. We still have till February. We have 2 more Marvel movies coming out before then, but I guess
Marvel's been really smart in how they've been doing this, because
we're always like 3 ahead.
Well, it's a very crowded space with Marvel right now, and that's not a commentary on oversaturation of superhero movies. I just mean with their properties. Like, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Well, I mean, think about the fact that they released the Ragnarok trailer before Guardians even came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the best trailer or the best hype machine for this movie and the Spider-Man movie was Civil War. I mean, coming out of that movie, I wanted to see a Spider-Man movie. I wanted to see a Black Panther movie. I wanted to watch I hadn't seen Ant-Man before that. I wanted to watch Ant-Man. I want to see another Ant-Man movie now after seeing both of those things. And like the art that came out, I was totally on board. Do you remember some of the concept art that had come out for this? Not
for which movie?
For Black Panther.
No, actually.
You don't remember that? There was some concept art that came out of like Wakanda, and it just looked really crazy.
I don't think I remember that.
I would have never guessed what the aesthetic of this movie was going to be based on those photos. Now, after seeing the trailer, this thing surprised me. It shocked me the way it looked.
Yeah. So we get to the trailer. As I'm watching it, it's almost like, have you heard that theory that's clearly not real? Have you ever heard that theory that like Native Americans, when like Columbus and his ships were coming over because they had never seen a ship before, that their brain like couldn't comprehend it for a while? That's have you heard that theory before?
I've heard it,
or some version of that. Maybe I didn't.
I don't know why you think that it's just completely not true. I mean, it's a psychological thing. There would be no way to prove it.
If an alien ship came down, you don't think that we would be able to see it right away?
I mean, you'd be able to see it, but to actually comprehend what you're witnessing.
Okay, I just described it. Okay, don't comment. Don't at me. Anyway, I described it poorly. So my point is, I didn't even know what I was looking at, but in a good way. Yeah. It was so, and I said this in the reaction, it just looked so otherworldly. And I thought that it was so weird, even though it started with like an interrogation type scene. And it wasn't really interrogation. I think they were both tied up. Well, was Martin Freeman tied up? No, he works for the government. I can't remember.
Oh, you mean Bilbo and Gollum?
Bilbo and Gollum, yeah. Which I didn't even pick up on until I saw somebody reference that on
Kayla
Twitter.
Was the first one that picked up on it. I showed her the trailer like a day late, and she was like, "Oh, that's cool what they're doing here." And I was like,
she probably saw me say it.
She's smarter than we are.
So anyway, yeah, the whole time I'm watching that trailer, I'm baffled as to how, like, Thor Ragnarok, the look of it.
And Guardians
it's
2.
So weird.
Guardians 2, even though I haven't seen it, the trailer, Ragnarok, and this, they have, like, unearthed. I don't know if they have, like, some new production team and people editing this stuff, the cinematography. I don't know, but there is now this really weird and good like color palette that is just so rich and vivid. And I mean, it looks fantastical.
I think that it's so noticeable to us because previously in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and maybe like the Thor movies aside, the Marvel movies are actually quite muted.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a whole lot of contrast to them. They're actually kind of boring looking movies.
I was about to say a little
colors.
bit vanilla. Yeah.
Even Guardians kind of looks like that. When you
I
compare
agree.
1 and 2,
100%.
One might as well be in black and white compared to when you look at Volume 2. Yeah, so I think that's what's throwing us off. As far as the production team goes, from what I'm reading and from what I understand, and I got a sense of this before, that they're prominently people of color, but they're also prominently women. Like, I think the DP and the production designer were both female, which is awesome. So I think that someone even tweeted this out today, and I think they pretty much illustrated the point beautifully, which is like Ryan Coogler just like drove up with his posse to Kevin Feige. He was like, all right, we got this. I mean, it's just such a, you can feel it out of that trailer. You can feel so much identity oozing out of that trailer,
right,
based on what Coogler brings, based on what his team brings. I mean, we're talking about a movie that is supposed to take place. Well, it does take place on Earth, in Africa, in a fictional country, absolutely, but it looks like it's on another planet. It almost looks like they brought to life something that you would see like in an anime. You know how like anime is like a hyper real Earth a lot of the times, and it doesn't look like Earth.
The funny thing about everything that you're saying, though, is I agree with 100%, but I also walked away from the trailer feeling like the film has everything that we're saying, colors, vivid, everything. It sounds glossy, but this movie also had a lot of grit to it, too. Like, there were some times where I thought that the movie reminded me a little bit of Blade Runner or something people constantly go back to, just the contrast of well, at least visually and aesthetically, the contrast between high-tech sci-fi but also gritty and grounded, like meshing those things together. And that's what I got from it as well. This was so badass, the trailer. This had like a rock star vibe to it. I mean, Chadwick Boseman walking around like he is, I mean, literally the fucking king. And just, I mean, the thing that I'm excited about with this movie is I like the fact that Marvel is taking these IP, the properties that they have, who are not necessarily A-list heroes, your top billing people. We've talked about it before. Iron Man, Captain America, the Avengers, even though they are Marvel's team, they've never really been like the biggest go-to headlining names for Marvel in the comic book world. They're great. Obviously, they're great. But these films really turn them into household names, 100%.
Think about the three Chris's, how they're the biggest movie stars now. Maybe not so much in other movies, but everyone adores Hemsworth, Evans, and Pratt. I mean, it's just...
And the characters. The characters, too. And I am so excited that I feel like this movie is going to do for Black Panther what Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, did for that character. I am so excited for the character of the Black Panther to be the next thing. I mean, we are in a torch passing era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Iron Man, Captain America, maybe not Thor to a certain extent, but those two individuals, they're getting older now. Their storylines sort of winding down a little bit. They're trying to pass the torch. Do you think the Black Panther and people like Spider-Man, do you think they're next in line?
Well, what's weird about that is a natural thing. I think that's the cycle that we've been seeing the past year or so, especially. That kind of talk came up a lot more after Age of Ultron, talking about the end of contracts. I think I just read today, though, that Evans just extended his contract.
He did.
Which is odd because there was a lot of like back and forth. Like,
I don't. Let me correct myself. I don't know if he did, but the discussion was about that he was ready to sort of move on, but then it came back. He was like, "No, I'm really excited to be doing more stuff."
There's always in that kind of stuff. It doesn't interest me at all because I'm just like, just tell me when you've decided.
It's like contract signing stuff in sports.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's when it comes to those type of stories, my attitude is just tell me when you figure it out.
Right.
Because there's always conflicting reportings. Chris Evans ready to focus on directing. Chris Evans wants to be Captain America as long as they'll have him. I'm just okay. Just let me know when you figure it out.
While we're on this topic, I want your take on something real quick, especially because this is more your wheelhouse to sort of dance around in or perform kung fu and whatever you do in your wheelhouse. Do you think Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, do you think they are confident enough in what their plan is to say there is going to be a time where we completely retire the idea of Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark as Iron Man, Steve Rogers as Captain America, and we are going to put our faith in a whole new group of individuals without constantly relying on that first group of people?
100%.
Does that excite you?
Yes. They could have easily, at any point, something like an Ant-Man or something like a Guardians of the Galaxy or Volume 2 even, at any point they could have gotten scared and said, well, let's just do Iron Man 4.
Right.
And I mean, you can make the argument, well, they're kind of doing that with Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't like that take, by the way. The whole
Spider-Man is also like kind of a gray area as how much of the future he can be a part of.
I don't think Marvel, and they know this, they don't have any reason to ever play chicken. Like, they don't ever need to freak out about anything. And this goes all the way back to how important and how crucial the first Guardians of the Galaxy was for that attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about all the people that they still have in their pocket that they could potentially unleash too. We still don't have, whether you know about it or not, but we still don't have Moon Knight. Like, that's not even like a real thing yet. Think about if The Punisher is good on Netflix. Think about him coming over into that world at some point too. I mean, I know we're in speculation zone, of course, but
yeah,
think about Iron Fist coming over.
Iron Fist sucks.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
I was very accepting of that when the show was out. I was just, it's fine.
Yeah.
But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't give a shit about Iron Fist.
No. I don't think the Defenders give a shit about Iron Fist.
I think it's mainly the casting. I don't like Finn Jones. Anyway, back to Black Panther. Where were we talking about the rock star attitude and with Run the Jewels? It did have that sort of cavalier. It had so much confidence about it. And visually what I was seeing, the fact that the Wakanda here looks very different than the Wakanda we had in Civil War, which is, I mean, I guess it's an obvious thing. We're taking a whole movie to explore this country as opposed to one scene that took place inside of a building in Civil War.
Yeah, you saw it the window.
Yeah, but it still didn't feel like the same place. And I think that, and this goes back to the whole idea that, yes, I heard that there was going to be a Black Panther movie. And yes, I heard that Ryan Coogler is directing, but when it comes to Coogler, you only have two other points of reference. And this goes, I said the same thing about John Watts when he went from Cop Car to Spider-Man Homecoming. In my head, I'm like, I can't comprehend what this looks like. Same with Colin Trevorrow when he made the jump to Jurassic World. It's like, when I get people, I think some people get really excited when they hear that type of news. But more often than not, I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so hard to translate in your head. What is John Watts' Spider-Man going to look like when you saw a very small contained thriller with Kevin Bacon about a kid stealing a cop car?
Well, you're going from a scenario where lower budget films, they're trying to work within a certain set of parameters, but then when you walk into, okay, here is an unlimited and infinite amount of resources for you to do whatever you want with. I mean, that's when you really, and it can go good and it can go really bad sometimes. I mean, I didn't see King Kong, but from everything I heard, that seemed like a shit show.
Kong Skull Island?
Yeah. I mean, that was another example of that happening.
The most recent example of this are the directors for Captain Marvel, Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, who directed that, I can't remember the name of the movie, Mississippi something with, our boy from Bloodline and Rogue One, Ben Mendelsohn, and Ryan Reynolds. Like, they directed some random movie that no one had ever heard of. And so when they're announced for Captain Marvel, I can't get excited about that news because not only do I have zero context, but I don't know how it translates. Like I don't know how this said movie over here informs Kevin Feige that they'd be the best. I mean, they might have had a great pitch, but it's just, again, the imagery trying to picture it in my head. So applying that to Black Panther, this is also the character for the first time in the MCU. This is 100% the one I know the absolute least about.
Yeah.
So I had even less context going into it. So it was sort of just like a mind-blowing experience to see that trailer for several reasons.
I'm gonna throw something out. The only reference I have of Black Panther was, I believe, when he crossed over into the Spider-Man animated series, and I don't know 100%, but
yeah,
people have been calling for Kraven the Hunter to be in Spider-Man. You know how?
Do you remember those episodes with Kraven?
Of course, I think that's how Black Panther came into the Spider-Man universe, if I'm not mistaken. But, and I could be completely wrong. Kevin Marks will have to correct me on that. But
oh boy,
so you know how Spider-Man: Homecoming is Spider-Man and Iron Man, like maybe Spider-Man 2 will be Spider-Man and Black Panther. How badass would that be?
That'd be really cool.
It'd be fucking sick.
It would be cool.
I don't know. Look, I'm excited about this movie. Just to touch on the Run the Jewels thing, we said this when we talked about Run the Jewels. I said this when I reviewed them, and I got all these people on the internet talking about, like, how dare you talk about how Run the Jewels are finally crossing over. No. Okay, Run the Jewels was barely in any... They weren't in a fucking Marvel movie trailer before this. Like, this album this year made them go into otherworldly realms.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, the same thing I talked about with Alt J being in Civil War. I mean, like cultural relevance, but the song, I mean, when I was already excited in the trailer, but when that song came on, I was like, fuck, this is so dope.
It was really good.
It made me so hyped. I've watched that trailer more than I've watched any trailer.
I think it's still, it was
like at 6 million.
It was at #1 on YouTube yesterday, and that might be the case on Marvel movies. I never really go to, it's still trending at #1 on YouTube.
Yeah.
Even today. So got me really excited.
Well, you got anything else before we take another break?
No. I gotta go pee pee.
Okay, my dogs are making weird noises. Let's take a break. We'll jump into music when we get back.
Did you know that Sight and Sound has a YouTube channel? If you didn't, you need to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Sight and Sound, or you can find a link in the description of this podcast. But yeah, if you're wanting more Sight and Sound content, you can get a ton of it over on our YouTube page. There's a lot more content over there. I do music reviews. Ryan talks about movies. We talk about TV, obviously. And yeah, it's kind of a nice little place to go if you need some more Sight and Sound in your life.
Okay.
Sometimes we do this thing where we have conversations off air that we probably should have on air. We're talking about.
Do you want to do it again?
Not really. We're talking about cursing in music. Love it or hate it.
As an artist, I didn't care. Actually, it's one of my biggest regrets that I didn't get to cuss in any of my songs, but I actually don't think it sounds good. I think more often than not, when you cuss in music, it sounds cheesy and lame. So yeah, I never really did it.
I used to go to karaoke all the time, and one of my favorite songs to sing was Judith by Perfect Circle, because in the middle of the song he screams "Fuck your Christ," and I just always thought it was hilarious. It's a great song, and I like performing it at karaoke. But always at that point, I just thought it was hilarious just to see people's reactions. Sorry if you're offended by that, but whatever, we don't care.
I remember I was young, probably middle school. I remember my mom, we were on our way to church, and we were listening to one of our local rock stations, and a Godsmack song came on.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And I asked my mom to buy me the Godsmack CD, and when she asked me what the band name was, and I told her, she said no, because that was the band name.
Of course.
Like, it would affect me. It would tarnish my reputation. And I'm like, Mom, I don't even know what that means. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't care what the name of the band is.
Well,
I was like, why do you think you're going to change my life if you buy me this record?
Well, first of all, I was wrong. It's not "Fuck your Christ," it's "Fuck your God." But regardless, both, they're one and the same, right? Anyways, Godsmack was actually one of the first bands that
You just want an excuse to say it again.
Godsmack was one of the first albums that I ever heard where the lyrics actually turned me off to the music, and it was specifically because I realized that almost every single one of their songs was about the exact same thing. They were just saying it different. It was all like, "Get away from me, stay away from me, don't
Linkin
come
Park's,
near me.
Linkin Park's like that.
I'm don't be around."
Chester Bennington has been around more liars in his life than
God.
anyone I've ever heard. I mean, those first two Linkin Park albums are the same. It's either about knowing a liar or not being good enough for someone else. That's what every Linkin Park song is.
There's a podcast. Called, I think it's just called Josta. What is it called? Josta. Jamie Josta's podcast from Hatebreed. The singer of Hatebreed used to host Headbangers Ball on MTV2. And one of my favorite things that he did was he started to do this thing called the Lyric Police for metal, where he was like, "Can we please give up Rise or give up I don't know, just what, like any sort of cliche
Being
metal
cold.
mosh call."
You remember,
I don't know about that, but
in like the same year, there were like 4 singles that came out that were called Cold.
Oh,
Breaking Benjamin, Crossfade.
the worst one was like
Evans Blue.
Burning Bridges.
Yeah, Haste the Day. Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of cliches.
Yeah. Do we have to talk about burning bridges all the time?
I am kind of a lyric police. Lyrics, and we talked about this before. I don't think we share in this same thought process, but lyrics can affect my entire attitude for a song.
Yeah.
Like the latest example, I was listening to the new Our Last Night EP, and one of their song titles is called Free Radicals. Song titles don't really bother me. I've listened to really good songs with absolutely shitty song titles.
Yeah.
And that's just from being in the type of music that we grew up listening to. But the chorus is literally like, if you're singing the chorus in your car, you're literally singing it's like I'm a free radical attacking rational chemicals. Like I that is almost word for word the exact chorus, and I'm like,
way too many syllables.
What,
first of all.
But it just makes me.
That's how I think.
It
I
just,
think about performance of it.
When I first heard that, I read the lyrics because it caught me off guard. I read the lyrics and I'm like, not only is this a ridiculous thing to come up with, like, let's talk about metaphor, or let's come up with a metaphor. Like, let's say I'm a free radical. Like, I'm like, okay, that's a silly thing to come up with in general. And then when you make it, when you write it down and make it the chorus of your song, it's one thing to like have a screaming part that says that in a verse. When you make that the chorus,
you can get away with a lot more when you're screaming.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, definitely.
Screaming in a band, kind of easy. You get a lot more leeway when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, when you make that the chorus, there were just several reasons why I'm like, no, I don't want to listen to this song because it sounds so stupid. And it's like, I was thinking about what it would be like if I'm riding in my car singing along to that. And I'm like, I don't even want to sing that. It's so weird. That might just be like a personal thing. I don't know if that bothers anyone else. I'm fine with calling it nitpicking, but it's just a recent example.
I think people just have different things that they are affected by with music. I mean, I'm not as much of a lyric guy. I care about lyrics, but I'm just not that guy. I'm more about the performance. Like when you said that line, I just thought to myself, that doesn't sound palatable to me. Like hearing those words together, forced together. There's nothing that I should never be able to tell how you wrote your lyrics.
Yeah.
If it has something like that, you are clearly writing it down and forcing in words. Do you remember those days when you had something written out and you were like, I got to force all of this sentence into this many beats?
But that's just part of the process. I mean, I think you're commenting on the end result. I have no problem with them. I mean, depending on how a lyricist writes everything down, I mean, they could write a novel.
Exactly.
And then when they can apply the novel in paragraph form to the music, then that's when they start slicing and dicing. I'm totally cool with that, but when at the end result, when it's that clunky and when it's that weird, that's what I don't care for. I think
it's just bad songwriting.
When writing lyrics, I cared a lot about the rhythm of how
Right.
like
Absolutely.
and honestly, even like going back to, and I don't want to make this a Brave the Storm conversation. We can drop it right after this, but I remember like even on the first EP, the rhythm of my words mattered more to me than how much sense they might make to somebody.
Right. That's
Just
why it
because-
was the best thing you guys ever put out.
Thank you so much, even though I disagree.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
look, I'm glad that you had this passionate discussion about music, because that's what we're going to get into. In fact, I'm going to break this out. I don't know if we're actually doing Sight and Sound bites for this episode, but 100% this will be cut out of Sight and Sound Weekly. So if you're listening to this as a separate podcast right now, we're actually going to be previewing this new 100th album called Rare. Now, if you guys don't know who this band is, that's 100% fine. I wanted to talk about this band because I have not been anticipating an album like this in a very, very long time. We talk about the heat meter all the time. My heat meter for this album is setting right at 100. I mean, it is fiery molten lava hot.
Okay, I need some education.
Okay.
So you're calling it an album, but I thought it was an EP
No.
because they're right now, as it stands on Spotify, they're laid out as 4 individual singles.
That's right.
So the
Those
album
are 4 songs off of
and
this
full length
EP.
album.
There's a full-length album coming out. Now,
All right.
we've talked about this before, sort of. Actually, you talked about it before when you guys talked about You, Me at 6, about single, I used to call it single raping. I'm trying a single raping
Jesus
us. I know.
Christ.
I need to
Wow.
change that. That's not the best thing to say. Like,
We're gonna have a Bill Maher situation.
they're just
here.
hitting us over the head with singles, and I'm very weary of that. Now, here's the good news. I believe the album is 12 tracks. That's a solid amount of songs. I like a 10-song album personally. I feel like 8, you're selling me a little bit short. I feel like more than 15 is
11 to 13
Too
is,
much.
is my idea.
Yeah.
11 to 13.
12.
10 feels too short.
12 means to me that you guys have really put some effort into this, and you want to give your fans something substantial to listen to. So yeah, there are 4 singles out right now. I let you listen, or I told you to listen to these. This band,
Once you let me out of the basement, you allowed me to listen to them.
this band, let me just say this. This band would have never in a million years been on my radar, because I remember this band. I'm a huge fan, and I was a huge fan of melodic hardcore music. We both come from a hardcore music background, metalcore, whatever you want to call it, aggressive music background. And my favorite genre or style of that genre of music was melodic hardcore. I love listening to bands like Life in Your Way, Shy Halud, Misery Signals, and the list goes on. And this was one of those bands that sort of came on a little bit later. I think their first album came out in like 2009, maybe 2010. And their first album reminded me a lot of Life in Your Way and Shy Halud, Strong Arm to a certain extent. Just real quick on that genre of music, I used to categorize your band as a melodic hardcore band.
Which is funny because we were like nothing in the realm of like a Shy Halud, in my
No,
opinion.
not at all.
I was going to say.
More melodic than anything.
Like, it makes sense to me to describe both bands that way, but they would never be like brother bands or anything.
No, absolutely not. That music genre always impressed me because I like a marriage of aggressiveness, heaviness, and melody. I love melody. I mean, melody is everything to me, and just to bring that into a heavy style of music just was always something that I just really, really enjoyed. But anyways, I couldn't give 2 shits about a lot of bands like that now. There are a handful of bands that are around today that I do care about. Counterparts, I think, are a great melodic hardcore band now. And there's a few others. But this band, for me, they never resonated. So why in the hell am I excited about it now? Because they are doing something that I really want your opinion on. Not necessarily their aesthetic, but just in general, because we've talked about it a lot. But they are completely changing their sound. I mean, changing and overhauling their sound is putting it lightly. I mean, they might as well be a different band. What is your take on that in general? And we've talked about it a lot before, but just for the sake of this conversation, like if I told you today, what band are you obsessed with right now? I guess balance and composure. And they sort of did this, but if they just completely changed, how would you feel about that?
It depends. It's sort of like there's two conversations here. There's one where we could just literally talk about how I feel about the final product, my opinion of this release.
I do want to talk about that at some point.
But an overall discussion, I'm relating it to this genre of music that we're coming from. Think of how little that actually happens when a band decides, more often than not, they stay in their own corner until they have just completely dried out,
played it safe,
and then their band is just dead. Because the reality is,
why does that happen? Why do those bands die?
I think that genre of music itself has a short lifespan, especially bands inside of it have short lifespans. There are exceptions, a band like Devil Wears Prada, but even them, they've evolved, and we will
all evolve.
That's a great example. Our Last Night is a great example of this. But even a band like Emarosa. Emarosa decided, we don't want anything to do with this scene, quote unquote, anymore.
I don't blame them. They were literally run out of our local music scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great example. But think of how unlikely that is for that screamo hardcore scene, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't happen a lot.
Well, it's to be expected that bands will change and will want to change, but it's 9 times out of 10 it's relatively minute. And sometimes we celebrate like even the most minor change. Like Bring Me the Horizon is a band that has progressed and evolved over the years. But to be honest, they haven't it's not like you couldn't have seen their progression coming. I mean, what did they do? They started out really heavy and aggressive as kids, and they brought melody and electronics, and they started singing a little bit. I mean, that's the natural progression.
And sometimes progression,
it's like Mumford and Sons going from the banjo to an electric guitar.
But sometimes, and especially in this genre, sometimes progression is just considered getting a new lead singer. But when you look at their overall impression,
or singing in general,
they've only had like the same lasting impression. Like Dance Gavin Dance.
They just haven't done anything new.
It hasn't meant anything.
Good band.
Overall, when you look at who they are, it hasn't meant anything that they've had 3 different lead singers.
Yeah. They have not progressed at all. They're a good band, but they have not progressed at all.
Bands like Bless the Fall and Woe Is Me, singers come in and out, but it's like they don't move. They don't go anywhere. So they're not doing what Hundredth ended up doing, what Bring Me the Horizon ended up doing, what Our Last Night ended up doing.
Pianos Become the Teeth are another version of a band that's done that as well.
They just, and very wisely, know that they can't last forever. It might be a great business decision. Like I wouldn't even blame any band for being like, let's break through in this genre, but then really explode. I mean, I think that's kind of fascinating. Actually, some people might call it fake or whatever, but hey, But then no one actually has to know that you're making those decisions.
But then you have certain bands that legitimately challenge their listenership and their audience every single album. Thrice is probably, for me, well, I mean, there's a lot of bands that do it, but Thrice and Radiohead are 2 bands that do it very, very often. Every single Thrice record, with the exception of maybe their last 2 or 3, I mean, they have shifted their sound so much. They started out as a band that they had more in common with like thrashy elements of Metallica, and eventually became a screamo band, and then they were like this experimental post-hardcore band. Now they're just now they're just a very, very good sort of post-hardcore like radio rock band. I mean, some of their songs are just extremely, extremely accessible with like an artistic edge to them. Radiohead, again, constantly changing and constantly forcing their fans to be uncomfortable. This is an example that I think is fascinating, because this genre of music that they're sort of shifting to, and this style of music that they're shifting to, it's not the most I almost said interesting, but because I do think it is interesting, it's not rare, no pun intended, for them to make this specific shift. The genre of music that they are sort of embracing now is very reminiscent of 90s alternative rock music that is very popular right now. they're also embracing elements of shoegaze music. If you don't know shoegaze or what shoegaze is, that's okay. It's just a very niche sort of genre music that was around in the early 90s. And that also is not, that's not a strange thing right now. There are a ton of bands that are embracing that. Our beloved Balance and Composure are a band who have embraced elements like that. Bands like Teenage Wrist, Deftones, they have taken a lot of inspiration from bands like that in the past. For you, as somebody that maybe isn't as much in tune with that genre of music, did you hear anything with these songs that reminds you of something that you've heard before, or that appeals to you at
What's
all?
the name of this album again?
It's called Rare.
Rare. These 4 songs, I gave Hundredth the nickname Sleepy Basement.
Okay.
It's very
Another band that takes a lot of influence from 90s alternative music.
Yeah. So they are a sleepy basement. It's a more it falls right in line, at least for me, in the family of Basement and the Balance and Composure bands that I've been really getting into recently. But this felt more droning in a way.
Spacey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what shoegaze music is supposed to do.
Okay.
Shoegaze music, the aesthetic of it is supposed to be embracing a lot of effects like reverb and chorus and echo to the point where you create just this muddy mixture of sound. The term that's always used with shoegaze is wall of sound music.
I was gonna say that it's crossing into separator territory.
100%. That's a genre of music that we definitely embrace.
That's
Absolutely.
a Jay Williams project, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing why I'm excited about this, because like I said, there are already a number of bands that sort of scratch this itch for me, but this is fascinating because they were a hardcore band, a melodic hardcore band. Hardcore music, and at least metalcore music, the modern state of it. When I say a modern metalcore album, what do you think of in terms of production? What comes to mind?
A modern metalcore?
Yeah.
It would probably be very polished.
Extremely polished, very glossy. I'm excited, and the songs that I've heard so far sort of reinforce this fact that if I say shoegaze music is very muddy and that sound is very hazy is a good word. Dirty, a little bit dirty. I am super excited to see them bring elements of really good production into that, because it doesn't have to sound that way. It doesn't have to be anything.
Yeah, they don't have to do anything.
When I hear the drums on some of these songs, how crisp they sound, even some of the guitar parts, like one of the songs still has a breakdown at the end of it. I don't know if you remember listening to it or not.
Yes.
But they're still bringing that edge to it, and I appreciate that, and that excites me.
I think it's almost too far to the point, like if you were asking my opinion on it, I think it's too far spacey to where I'm not able to,
for you personally,
to latch onto it. When you sent me that first, whatever the song is with the music video, my first impression of them that happened a few weeks back.
Luke actually told us about this.
Yeah, I did dig it. Like yeah. I enjoy it. I think it's good.
I said it wasn't registering for you.
Yeah, you were wrong about that.
Yeah.
But well, maybe you're not, because I enjoyed it. I liked it, but this isn't something I'm going to be listening to.
I'm actually going to disagree with you on that, because I know you well enough. And
you think it'll catch on with
when
me?
I first heard this, I thought, this is cool. I like this. It excites me because I'm interested in this sound right now. But it just wasn't grabbing me too much. The more time I spent with this, these songs are really well written, and they're actually pretty catchy.
Sure.
And the more time I spent with it in general, I was craving this. I started craving these songs, and when they started releasing more tracks and more singles, I just started getting fucking hyped. Now there's reviews have come out already for this, and people are talking about it. This thing is a massive, massive hit with critics that typically don't respond well to this sort of genre of music, and that wouldn't have picked up this album. I can't remember the publication, I apologize, but one of a pretty big publication put out their top 50 albums of the year list so far, which we're going to be doing that top 5 list later on this month. but this was sitting at number 23 on this list. And this isn't like a hard rock or a metal blog. This is a music blog that's pretty well respected. Does that surprise you at all that this band sort of came out of nowhere to sort of grab that attention?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I had never even heard of this band before last month. So, again, talking about context, I really don't have any. I don't know. I guess my impression, and you may be right, because I think even like the latest Balance album really surprised me.
That's where I'm coming from.
We talked about how much more we enjoy that over time. But at the same time, I already liked Balance, and Balance already had an impression on me, whereas this band doesn't. But I am, as of right now, more intrigued by their other stuff. But
their older stuff,
yeah, like at the
sort of grabbing on to the old vibe. You wish you were in a hardcore band, don't you?
No, I like melody too much.
I'm going to ask you a question towards the end of this that talks about things that could have been. But
well, I guess all I'm saying is, like, right this second, I'm more interested in the old Hundredth than I am this new album. But based on that relationship, if I become more of a fan in them in general, I might be able to latch on to this transition.
I'm actually interested to see if you do listen to their old stuff and you hear their progression up to that point. Like if maybe by the second or third album, you think to yourself, oh, I could totally see the direction that they eventually got to. Just to sort of close up this discussion, I have 2 points. One, like I said before, the quality of the songwriting has been really, really impressive. Just to see that other people are holding this album up, and I haven't even heard it yet, I think is really cool, and it reinforces the fact. But also, like I said, the production in general on this is exciting to me. The fact that they are bringing elements over from a genre of music that we were so interested in and sort of marrying it with this other genre of music, it just makes me excited, man. And there are so many examples of bands that take these risks and take these chances, and they're called risks for a reason, because sometimes it works and sometimes it goes really, really terribly. And I hope the best every time a band does it, because it is scary. And they are, a relatively successful band. But the last question I want to ask you, if Ryan Snelling was still making music today and Brave the Storm, do you think you would have progressed from those days, or do you think you guys would? I mean, I know your band life was pretty different personalities were taking music in general different directions, I think is safe to say. But what type of music do you think you would be making today?
Brave the Storm, if it was up to me.
Which it's not. I want you to also think about taking other people into consideration with this.
Even back in the day, even in Brave the Storm's final days, I always wanted to go the route of Our Last Night.
Really?
Yes.
I hate that. God, I hate that you say that.
I'm sorry. It was at the time when I was ready to learn how to sing. The very last album, or excuse me, the very last single we put out, I had a couple of singing parts, which was a couple more than I had ever had in the entire career of Brave the Storm. I wanted to make that transition. I wanted to make videos for YouTube and like music videos. And yeah, I wanted that type of Kipe. Is that a racial term?
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper. But I was close. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, I wanted to go the way of making it more popular, because that was sort of always my case from the get-go. When people and I remember in the days where I would try to convince people in my high school to listen to Brave the Storm, and they'd go, "Oh my God, I can't take the screaming." And right now I'm thinking, like, have you heard of Amir? Like, this is nothing.
Oh, you mean the best crossover band that's ever existed?
My impression was always...
I want to do you one better. This morning, I woke up, and for some reason, it came up on my personal YouTube. It was a full set of Don Broco. I think you guys would have been more of in that realm. And do not even for a second compare Our Last Night in terms of quality to Don Broco. I'm not a huge Don Broco fan, but even I can realize and see that the gap in quality, because they're not too far from each other, still a rock band with very pop elements to them. I want you to set the bar higher. I want you to be a little bit more Don Broco and a little less Our Last Night.
I'm not talking about like skill set or anything. Actually, it would have been very similar to Our Last Night because Matt Wentworth produces all of their music now.
Yeah.
And Josh would have been doing that same thing with
But
Eric.
see,
I mean,
Josh-
it would have been very similar.
Josh, I've listened to some of their stuff and Our Last Night, and I get a way more electronic vibe with Don Broco than I do with Our Last Night. And I think Josh, this is a weird conversation now to have on the podcast because we're getting into people that nobody knows territory, but Josh is like super embracing a lot of electronic elements in his music now.
Yeah.
Obviously you would have had the jingle bells from Eric, but and, what would Eric contribute? It would be like some twangy guitar parts. I would think that would be cool too.
Eric just writes leads that sound like you're playing Mario Kart.
That's pretty much all Don Broco is. Could Eric write Don Broco guitar leads?
There was a time.
Amazing. I want to do a music episode where we get all of you guys in a room and we talk about this. We hash out Brave the Storm.
It'd be great.
Drama.
Let's do it. I'm down.
I know you are.
Eric
It's
will be
all
here.
about you.
Sure.
I'm going to make it about Eric.
That's fine.
Okay. This has gone on long enough. Regardless, guys, check out Brave the Storm on Spotify. Also,
No, not those
Don
songs.
Broco.
Email me. I will send you our best songs. Don't listen to the ones on Spotify. Unless it's
Cobster from Schmoes No approves. Anyways, let's also let me also let you guys know this 100th album. It comes out this coming Friday. What day is that? The Friday the 16th? Is that right? What is this Friday? It is Friday
16th because Father's
June 16th. That's right. So make sure you guys check it out. If you guys are into like rock music and shit, and yeah, try it out. I think it'll be good. Stop shaking your shaker. Do you just want to go straight in? Well, no, I need to close this out because this is going to be a bite on
I need to pee again.
All right, so let's take a break. We're going to come back. If you're listening to this as a standalone, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Sense8. No, the Wachowskis? Yeah. All right, I just said the Wachowskis. I was being careful. We'll be right back.
If you absolutely cannot get enough of Sight and Sound, we have you covered on all bases. You can always find us on all of our social media platforms like Twitter and Instagram by looking up @SightSoundPod. It's the same for both. Make sure you check us out there. Also, make sure you're liking our Facebook page because we want to get some good conversations going between our listeners and one another. So search for us on Facebook. Just search Sight and Sound. Use the ampersand. We're also on YouTube. Yeah, that'd be great. Let's get back to the show.
Let's talk about Sense8.
Speaking of Wachowski sisters, I don't know if I've ever been more uncomfortable than hearing Michael Rappaport talking about them.
It was hilarious
because he was on Collider Movie Talk.
I saw them all like tense up when he was talking about
it was
them.
all about just not knowing where he was going with this.
Yeah,
but
that's what you get with him too.
He actually had an amazing point. My boy Gary V will be the first to tell you that the odds of becoming a human being in general are like 41 trillion to 1.
It sounds like bro science.
Then that's fine. Whatever. Shut the hell up. Then when you consider the
you only
fact,
got mad because I'm right.
then you consider that I don't care that you're right. It's fine. It's still an astronomical. Anyway. And then when you add in the fact of what the odds are of having a twin, on top of that, it's even more astronomical. Then it's even more astronomical when you have one sibling that goes through that type of transition that the Wachowskis go through. And on top of that, the second twin also does it. I mean, it's a great point. It's just it's crazy the odds of that happening. Anyway,
Are they actually twins? I didn't know that they were twins. I just thought they were siblings. I mean, how was that supposed to know that? I don't give a shit about it.
No, you're just making me question. You're right.
Oh, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, scientifically, it actually would make a lot of sense that if they were twins, for one to go through that change, that they would both go through the change because they share similar DNA characteristics. But Anyways, let's talk about Netflix.
It just says siblings every. I don't know.
Let's talk.
They're not.
Let's talk about Netflix canceling a show that only a handful of people cared about. That I'm actually confused from what little I know about it. Actually didn't get as much of a response as it should have. Have you ever watched Sense8?
No, but
Well, how are you qualified to talk about this?
my gauge on, because I want to talk about what it means in the landscape of television. My only gauge on this show has been basically that I've never really been a fan of the Wachowski sisters.
Okay.
And our friend Kevin loved the show.
Yeah.
And Kevin has some awful opinions.
Let me just say this. I actually think that you might really, really like the show. I've seen 2 episodes to this show. The first 2 episodes. And the first time I ever watched it, I was on a Tinder date. And
Great story.
I didn't know what to do on this Tinder date. Like I didn't have that much in common with the person that I was seeing. It was our first date, and she asked if I wanted to watch TV, and I said sure. And we got into a long discussion about Mr. Robot, and we ended up watching Sense8 on her laptop, and it was a torrent file of it. And I said, "Why are we watching
What?
a torrent of this? It's on Netflix."
Does she have Netflix?
She goes, "Well, I don't have Netflix.
Oh,
I don't have."
God.
And I said, "You don't have?" I mean, in fairness to her, like she worked like 3 jobs and just didn't have a lot of money. Anyways, so I just thought that was strange in general. And so we start watching the show, and the pilot is actually crazy good. Like it's super cinematic. It's super science fiction. The idea behind it in general is awesome. Like,
Isn't it just Cloud Atlas?
well, not what I was explained.
Just you're not jumping through time. You're just jumping in locale.
Sort of. From what I could be completely wrong, and somebody that's a Sense8 fan of the. Well, here's what I'm going to say. The plot of the show is insanely convoluted.
Okay, so what I want our listeners to know that I don't want this conversation to be about us talking like we know what the show is,
Yeah.
but I will ask our listeners, sell me on the show. Whether you tweet, you can tweet at me or write it in the comment section if you're listening to this on YouTube on SK Plus. Sell me on the show, or tell me that there's no point in watching it now that we know it's not coming back.
Well, so when the first time I watched the show, the girl told me I need to explain to you the entire season for you to even understand what you're watching in the first episode.
Boo.
No. She was right, because
I'm booing the show. I'm not booing her.
She explained everything to me, and after doing it, I mean, it took like 30 minutes just to explain it. And I said, how in the hell could anybody watch this show? What you've explained to me sounds dope, but it's so convoluted. There's so many rules here to have to understand that I am exhausted just having heard it. But the idea of it did seem interesting. You know how you watched the first season of Heroes, right?
Yeah.
The concept of Heroes, of an original superhero science fiction type of show with big ideas like that sounds really intriguing. That's what this show was. It was an idea on paper that sounds like it should have been appealing. It should have worked, but it just, like I said, it seemed super, super convoluted.
I don't know exactly what it was. I mean, maybe that was part of it, because this was about the time when, again, I don't care. The Wachowskis never excite me about anything. I mean, I give them credit for the first Matrix, but that's about it. So I don't know if I was ever going to watch this show anyway, but coming off of the whatever response to Cloud Atlas, coming off of the fact that Jupiter Ascending is one of the worst abominations I've ever seen in my life. It's the first time
I've never seen it, but Cloud Atlas is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I guarantee you, and I've never even seen Cloud Atlas, I guarantee you Jupiter Ascending will make you want to rip off your arm. I hated my life watching that movie. It's the first and only time I've ever got up out of a theater, walked away to take time away from the movie. I went and I got up, sat in American Sniper for about 10 minutes, and then had to walk back in to finish.
I did that during Beauty and the Beast. I left the theater.
You're so over dramatic. My God.
Why?
It's just Beauty and the Beast.
I just didn't enjoy it, so I left it. I sat in the lobby for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it's Beauty and the Beast.
But I just didn't enjoy it. You didn't enjoy Jupiter
I'm not
Ascending.
saying you have to like it. I'm just saying there's no way in hell that Beauty and the Beast and Jupiter Ascending have that in common. Anyway.
Sometimes being on your phone is more enjoyable than watching certain movies, and that's how Beauty and the Beast was for me.
So anyway, I don't know if I was ever gonna watch this show, and I don't even remember the response being overwhelmingly positive or anything. Like, even as the show continued, it never felt like a show that I had to watch. No one around me was telling me I needed to see it. They came out with a Christmas special. I don't even know what the hell that looks like. Someone's gonna fire in the comments. Well, actually, the Christmas special was awesome. Okay, but it sounds ridiculous to have getting a Christmas special around a sci-fi drama on Netflix. I'm so curious.
Getting canceled on Netflix seems like the worst thing that could possibly happen. Like, if you can't make it work on Netflix, and I know that maybe budget and all that shit like is probably a big deal, but
yeah. Well, let's talk about why we're talking about this to begin with, which was that it did get canceled. Based on how expensive it was, based on the locales of it, the production of it, the fact that it takes place all over the world, all of that stuff was built into the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix put it on for a reason. Also, it's also on Netflix for a reason, because Netflix, more than most, have the resources to make a show like that, if anything. So, I mean, this is why I think this conversation is interesting, or this topic is interesting for several reasons. Because it's like, on one hand, it's like Netflix knew exactly what they were getting into, and Netflix is exactly the type of place where this should live. But at the same time, shouldn't they have known better? I mean, I guess you can't predict if it's also based on the viewership, because I think this is very much a cult show.
Oh, 100%.
So maybe based on that, like, at the same time, what kind of, I'm just curious of the thought process of all of this.
Well, that's the fascinating thing for me, because the funny thing about it is this show can still live on Netflix, and people over time can grab onto it. I mean, it's kind of the Breaking Bad phenomenon. Like, Breaking Bad, a shit ton of people didn't jump onto Breaking Bad until it was on Netflix.
Second Life.
And that's fascinating to me. I've never watched a show that's changed networks before. So Friday Night Lights started on NBC, and I think eventually it went over to Audience Network. Is that right?
Yeah, whatever the DirecTV.
Right. I've never watched a show like that, but watching it after the fact, I mean, it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's incredible, and I can't even imagine how frustrating it would be to watch that show at that time, especially for how good it was, and to hear like, oh, it's going to get canceled. Like, when something gets canceled if things get canceled because they're just not good, that's one thing. But when a show is actually really great and just not enough people are watching it, that's when it becomes scary. That's when it becomes frustrating, I think, for people. So I can understand why people who are fans of the show might be pretty upset about it. But it is strange. It is strange to me that it's a Netflix show that just didn't catch on with people. But I also haven't seen enough of it to know if the quality is good or bad. So.
You know what I want to happen? For once, I want like a head executive, a studio executive, or who's the guy in charge of Reed? Is it Hastings or Sarandos that's in charge of Netflix programming?
No,
I think it's Sarandos. Reed Hastings is the CEO of Netflix, but Sarandos is in charge of. I think I've got that right. For once, I would love for one of these guys to come out and be like, you know what? This is a great show. The problem is that you're not watching it, so watch it. Like, have someone just refuse to take a show off the air because, I don't know. I mean, I would love for someone to actually kind of believe so much in the content and like do everything for it. And I know that it can get costly if you're trying
Yeah.
to push something. But I just want to hear someone like blame the audience.
But yet, and well, it's fascinating. The funny thing about Netflix is the fact that they utilize their metrics so well, obviously, and they can track so much of what people do watch and how much of a commentary that is about human beings. Because I think, isn't Fuller House the most successful show on Netflix? Like, whoever saw that coming?
At least it was before. I think it was Iron Fist that took.
Oh, really?
Or it was either Iron Fist was the most watched Marvel show or something like that.
Well, and it's
They
also
all have their own.
it's also interesting too because Netflix holds so much close to their chest. Like, they don't reveal their numbers. Like, I've heard comedians on podcasts talk about going into meetings and asking like Netflix, "How is my special doing?" And they just say, "Oh, it's doing good." And they say, "Oh, well, what are the numbers?" And they just won't tell them. Like, they won't even tell them how their own special is doing. It's either good or it's bad. And like, we don't really know. So we don't know why the show was canceled. We can only really speculate.
And from what I read, so the whole point of this is that there was a petition, and I think that says a lot about the fact that it's a cult show. It reminds me of the show Jericho, how people asked for it to come back, and then it came back. And
Did you know anybody that watched Jericho?
No.
I knew one couple that tried to get me to watch it forever, and they would always say, "Oh, if you love Lost." You know how many shows people have led that off with? Like,
Flash Forward. Do you remember that show?
Yes. If you love Lost, oh, you're going to love
The Event. Do you remember that show?
Up.
The Event?
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway.
What was the one show that was on Fox that was like a mix between Jurassic Park and Lost? Was it called Lost World?
The dinosaur show?
Yeah.
That took place in the future?
Yeah.
I can't remember what that's called. But that was like one of the most expensive pilots that Fox made, and that I remember having a viewing party with friends for that pilot.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Was it good?
The pilot was okay, but it ended up being a lame show.
What was that other show that Cody watched that one time with Josh Holloway in it?
The Colony?
Yeah.
Or Colony on USA?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's hard for me to be convinced to watch a show that I know was canceled, because it's not even based on. It's more about having an ending or having an open-ended show that concerns me. I don't want to invest in something that I know and I don't know if I'm going to be pleased with.
Did it not end? I mean, did it not have
I don't remember. But I'm just saying in general, like, that's sort of my attitude. I'm more concerned about it ending rather than the fact that it got canceled for said reason. But anyway, the whole point was that this cult following, this cult fan base, petitioned for season 3, I guess. Aren't there 2 seasons of Sense8? I think the second season came out recently. Whatever.
And a Christmas special.
And the Christmas special, exactly. And then Netflix basically said, "We heard you, but we just can't do it."
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought that was interesting because they didn't say why, really. I mean,
At least they acknowledged it.
I mean, you can assess the fact that it's based on production and the complications, and maybe it's just simply not worth it. And I mean, okay, I get it, but I just kind of thought it was funny that they were like, "No, not gonna do it." So I actually give credit to the people that were trying to bring it back, because Netflix has shown you that you can bring shows back, with Arrested Development being one of the biggest examples. And like you said, something I hadn't even considered, you just brought up, the fact that in 5 years, the Sense8 audience could grow even more, and then Netflix be like, "Yeah, season 3 totally makes sense."
Yeah.
That's something I've never even considered, Netflix reviving its own show, which I find very interesting. So I'd be curious to see if that ever happens. Not necessarily with Sense8, but in general.
Well, I think people have to tread lightly too, because there are many examples of.
Is Arrested Development an
I
example of that?
was about to say that sometimes when things are canceled, even great shows that end, sometimes there's a reason for that, or they're better left dead, because there are examples out there of things that have been revived that just quality-wise aren't great. The 4th season of Arrested Development, not that great. I mean,
which one?
The 4th season of Arrested
Oh
Development.
no, I mean,
No, it's nothing.
I don't care for it.
It's nothing.
It wasn't good until the Job episode, which was halfway through.
Did you watch when they revived Heroes again? I mean, not that Heroes was great when it got canceled. Anyways.
Like the updated version last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it good?
No. I did not like the pilot.
Yeah.
Or not pilot, but the premiere of that at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. But I do think it's fascinating. We are in a very just odd time of TV in general, just because TV is so good and people are putting more and more money into television. It's a very big property, and there are more outlets now than ever. And that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool. But I don't know. We're just in a weird spot that even on Netflix things can get canceled. I thought for sure, like, if something got canceled, just one day it would be putting out episodes, and then we would be waiting 5 more years for like the new season. I don't think I recall anything else just being outright canceled on Netflix. I mean, I'm sure they exist, but
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I don't know.
I know that there's.
I mean, Marco Polo. Did they just not make any more?
They canceled Marco Polo.
Okay.
Yeah, they did do that. Same reason, expense, which is nuts though, because they'll throw all kinds of money at this movie, Bright, the Max Landis Will Smith movie that's supposed to be coming out.
Well,
I should say David Ayer movie, excuse me, because he directed it. But
they did just renew the path for a 3rd season.
Netflix is kind of frustrating.
Not Netflix, Hulu
because
did,
they do put out a lot of stuff that I'm just like, I love that they're putting out content, but half of it I'm not even aware of. Like, they just throw it up. And sometimes I think if you have that mentality where they're just like, oh, we'll do whatever, you're not giving me the best you can get. Like,
well, for a company that's so rooted in the internet and is so rooted in people discovering things, like, they don't really do a lot of marketing. I mean, they do, but
well, it's almost like I don't even know if they need to.
They probably
because
don't.
Everyone has
it's in their homes. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't even know if they have to, but it is a little bit frustrating. And maybe this is just the way it's going in general. Maybe it's a transitional thing where people are just going to start throwing things up.
I mean, I talk about it all the time with music when I do my music episodes, that one of the only things that I'm actually kind of nostalgic about old school music days is going into a record store and just thumbing through the records and seeing something and be like, maybe this will be good, maybe it won't. You're kind of doing that with Netflix. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure you've had this. Like, I like to get a meal and sit down and watch Netflix while I eat. But if I don't know what I'm going to watch, I will flip through Netflix and I will look down in 30 minutes will have gone by because I haven't figured out what I want to watch yet. It's a real problem. Maybe I should watch Sense8.
I spent a year waiting for the War Machine movie with Brad Pitt on Netflix. And I was like, yeah, I'm very curious what this is going to look like. It came out like 2 weeks ago, and I've never done anything with it.
The same thing with that movie with Jason Segel and Robert Redford. That's been out for a long time.
Oh, I thought that trailer was awful. So
really?
Yeah. I turned that trailer off.
Why?
I just thought it was nothing.
Why? It had like a any of the leftovers.
I didn't think it looked good.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I didn't think it looked good.
That's weird.
I love Robert Redford, but
it's weird.
I didn't think it looked good.
About the trailer.
There's also like a Jeff Garlin movie that came out recently that was like really like in the vein of Naked Gun. Like, that sounds fucking amazing to me because I love that type of comedy. But
or there's even the Ninja Warrior knockoff with Terry Crews that they've got on there. Do you know about that?
Oh yeah.
I forget what
I don't
it's
know.
called.
I just think that's, and this is my thing. This isn't even like
we should do a whole TV episode on the psychology of Netflix, because the fact that it's just there for you to watch anytime might hurt it, because I just won't watch it.
I just wish that Netflix did a better job of getting me excited for the things that were coming out. And so I don't know what the disconnect is with that. But like, even like I don't know. I just feel like so many things just like, oh, well, now it's on Netflix now. But unless
I agree with you.
Unless it's a Marvel series, I don't feel a sense of urgency. So I don't know.
No, I agree with you, and I think that's fascinating because, yeah, when it's there, it's available anytime, and I could just as easily not watch it today and maybe watch it tomorrow and continuously put it off. I think you're right. I think you're onto something. They need they need to do a better job of getting people interested in what they do. HBO does it. I don't know why. I don't know if they need to have like trailers before you watch things of their own content. I mean,
you're absolutely right. HBO always has a trailer. That's how I found out about Big Little Lies.
100%.
I didn't find Big Little Lies because of a YouTube trailer. I found it because it came on before we were watching. Well, before I was binging Game of Thrones last year for the first time.
This is a fantastic conversation because there's also the issue with HBO. You get the water cooler buzz talk. It's like with Netflix, yeah, we get that when they're huge properties. I mean, the crossover, 13 Reasons Why, obviously, was the OA was another example of that. But for the most part, everybody's taking in different content at at completely different times. So, like, I might be super excited for Attack on Titan, but does anybody else care because they're watching something else? And that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, that buzz isn't as transferable for, like,
right.
How many times do you have a conversation with somebody who's like, oh my God, I stumbled upon this movie on Netflix. You should really check it out. And it's like, got other things.
Well, I mean, I think the other problem too is that I think it's easy to identify what an HBO drama looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very good at, for one, so much of their content is so prestigious. I mean, they very rarely spit out a bad egg.
That's true.
And
talking about quality over quantity.
When you think about what an HBO comedy looks like and what an HBO drama looks like, I think most people have an idea of what that is. With Netflix, you can go from House of Cards to something like 13 Reasons Why, and all the way to something like Will Arnett's Flaked.
Never seen it.
And then
I've never watched Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt either.
And then their string of Adam Sandler movies. I mean, it's literally everything in one place. And I know that's a really obvious statement to make, but I think that might be a more highbrow attitude. This might be my problem.
That might be our problem.
Yeah, it might be our problem.
We like prestige
because we're looking at like, get this trash out of my Netflix.
Well,
but
I'm already like that with movies. I'm already like that with movies in the theater.
Well, think about the fact that the movies that I'm complaining the most about, the movies that I don't want Netflix to make, are the ones that are the most successful. All of the Adam Sandler movies that have come out, the one with Kevin James recently, those are easily the most successful movies that come out on Netflix, and they're the ones I'm complaining about. So I'm very willing to say that it's my problem, but overall, it's an interesting idea to discuss here.
Absolutely, 100%. I'd love to revisit it at some other point in time, but let's wrap some things up. Before we wrap some things up, you know what I noticed while we were talking?
What?
We both have a wound in like the exact same spot on opposite hands, sort of.
Yeah, this one.
How weird is that?
This one just snuck up. Is this a Sense8 thing? Are we connected?
I don't know. I don't know what that show's about, but
I don't either. I think it's about people being connected.
I got this weed eating.
I just looked down at my hand like 2 days ago and it was bleeding. I have no idea what this is from.
That's strange. Guys, you can find us on social media at Sight Sound Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Like us on Facebook if you want to. It doesn't really matter. Go to sightsoundpod.com. Go to sightsoundpod.com. Get your t-shirts. There's some good stuff. More stuff coming very soon. I promise. I guess. Doesn't really matter either. But you can find me at Jay Williams, J to the A, the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. Go to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of stuff going on our YouTube channel. We have a project that we're working on right now behind the scenes. More on that later. But as soon as that's done, my next job is to diversify our YouTube content. And I don't necessarily mean like, hey guys, welcome to Cooking with Sight and Sound. I mean, like, I don't just want our music content to be reviews all the time. Like, I want to give you guys some interesting lists and some discussions and some breakdowns of things. I'm sure Ryan will do some stuff with whatever he does. But anyways, he's doing a good job. He's stepped up his YouTube game here recently. He's put out a 4-minute vlog. Might be the shortest vlog I've ever seen, but still funny and good nonetheless. Ryan, where can they find you?
Guys, I'm really trying to step up my Insta game.
I know. I'm gonna have to block you on that too.
Find me on Instagram.
Do you remember when my friend Michael was posting all these memes and stuff like that? And we were like, Michael, give it a rest.
It
Chill out.
It wasn't about the amount he was posting. It was about the quality
That's
of
true.
his posts.
That's true.
They were awful.
That's
memes
true.
And jokes. Anyway, I'm trying to step up my Insta game. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at WhatUpSnell, and that handle is also in the description of this podcast. In case you forget, please follow me and hang out with me over there. And you're also more than welcome to talk about anything that we talked about on this show with me on Twitter. I try to respond to all of you guys. I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please subscribe and rate and review on iTunes. If you're listening to us on the SK Plus network, the Schmo Plus network, feel free to leave a comment and chat with us as well. And yeah, be on the lookout for some movie episodes. I know I'm playing the long game. I know you've probably mentioned or heard me mention this before. I appreciate that. I'm playing the long game. But I'm going to be releasing some movie episodes that involve our friends over at Collider. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Right now, I've got 3 in the works. I'm probably going to get to like 6 or 8, and then those will be released. More on that very soon.
Guys, winter is coming, which also means Game of Thrones podcast coverage here on Sight and Sound is coming as well. If you watch Game of Thrones, screw all those other Game of Thrones podcasts because they suck. Actually, they're probably pretty good. They probably know more about it than we do. But regardless, if you want the Sight and Sound vibe via Game of Thrones, make sure to get it here. That's all I'm going to leave you with. We'll see you later. Say goodbye, Ryan.